Hey guys, it's Will from EDM Tips. Today I'm going to show you how to make house music in the style of Kream. Bring it in. This is nice. I'm going to work as quickly as possible, and as usual you can download the project file, all of the samples and presets completely free below this video. If you want information about the EDM Tips coaching program, check out the link below this video. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share and consider subscribing to my channel for music tutorials like this each and every week. Okay, without further ado, let's hop into the door and get it done. Okay, we've got lots to get into today. First, we're going to talk about the vibe of Kream's music. Then we're going to go into creating the chords and the bass line to base our whole track around. Then we're going to be bringing in other elements like pianos, a kalimba, and we're going to be producing those really tight, crisp house drums as well. So first, let's talk about the vibe of Kream. So they make house music, but it's quite dark and it's very emotive, and I really like it. And part of the reason for that is that they've got quite melodic bass lines. They use their arrangement and their spacing of the different elements very carefully, so the mix never sounds too full and overbearing, and every single element gets a chance to breathe. So without further talking, let's jump to it. Okay, Kream, what are we going to call this? We are going to call this Sugar and Coffee, because it goes so well with Kream. Boom. Okay. In terms of tempo, we are going to choose 122 because that's going to work absolutely fine. And the first thing we're going to get in there is just a kick, nice and simple, because we need to base it on something. Now, if we are creating a nice classic house beat, I'm going to use a 909 kick. It's a bit distorted because it's kind of one I use for techno, but it's going to be absolutely fine. So let's just program that in. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go there. Let's make it each one half a beat long so we don't have the tail too long. Increase the release a little bit. And we are producing at quite low levels, so we never have to worry about clipping on the master channel. Okay, so let's work out these chords. Now I'm going to create this in a minor key because again, that's very reminiscent of Kream's sound as well. So I'm going to create a piano, and I would usually use another piano, but I want to use as many kind of stock plugins as possible today. So I'm just going to use a piano from Ableton itself. Let's do that. And if you don't want to play the piano or you can't play the piano, you can actually use this really cool scale feature in Ableton. So we could choose C minor. And I'm going to work out the bass notes first. And if you press scale, it just folds it so that these notes are all within the scale of C minor. And we're going to use this for every MIDI clip that we create. And that means that we're never going to hit a wrong note. I'm just working out the bass notes first. Let's turn this down a little bit. And you can see that I'm actually changing the note before the beat, and that's to keep that kind of syncopated groove going. But we're going to make a sustained re-space, so let's make sure these notes are sustained. And then we'll go up again at the end. Okay, so that's our bass line. And now we're going to just take these down an octave. There we go. And the next thing we are going to do is create those chords over the top. Now, the easiest way to do that is to, and actually I want to kind of stick to one chord more or less because it's going to give it a really nice emotive feel rather than changing the chord for every note. So let's start with our root note, which is C, because it's the key of C minor. And I'm just skipping a note each time when it's in fold mode, and that's going to create your normal triad, and the root chord of the track is C minor. So let's just hit that chord and see how it sounds if we keep that chord and change the bass note underneath, but just stick to that one chord. I tell you how it's going to sound. It's going to sound freaking sweet. Yes, instant sweet. So we can just duplicate that. And we might add a little bit of variation. You know, we can move the notes up and down a little bit to add a bit more emotion. like so. And we want to add a little bit of interest to this in terms of rhythm, so we can switch the rhythm out a bit, but we're going to stick to these main chords. So let's just create a little bit of interest with the rhythm of these pianos, but we will be creating a nice syncopated rhythm later on. But that sounds quite cool. That last one, I think will be the... Yeah, let's hit that now. That's nicer. Cool, so let's turn it down, add loads of reverb, and I'm making the reverb on an auxiliary channel with a nice long decay time to make it sound really big. And we want to make this sound quite ethereal, this. So let's increase the decay time. I'm not sure if that's the right sound really, but we can tweak it later anyway. Okay, on to the next thing. Let's actually get the bass in there. So we've worked out the bass notes. If we create a bass synth, I might do this in Serum actually. I know I wanted to do everything in the stock plugins, but Serum is just easier for sound design. Shall I do it in Serum or shall I? No, I'll stick to Wavetable. I might regret this decision, but let's try it. So let's draw those bass notes in. We can just grab them and copy them. Let's put them in. Bass, here we go. Bass in the place, London. So we'll put them down an octave as well, I think. First thing we're going to do is switch it to mono because we don't want the bass notes kind of bleeding into each other. That's our sub bass actually, so we'll stick to that because we'll separate the sub bass and the mid bass so we can make the mid bass a bit more kind of wide in the stereo field. But there's a tick I can hear when every note hits here. So I'm going to take out the high end just to make sure that tick gets demolished. Demolish the tick. So I'm just duplicating it. Let's call that one sub bass. And we're going to leave that a nice clean Calvin clean sine wave. And then this mid bass, let's call it brass bass because we're going to add a little bit more interest to this with an envelope. And we'll take out the high end of this one because we don't want it clashing with our sub bass. So let's just switch that and roll off at about the same place, about 120 or so. So you can't hear anything now because it's all sub bass. So let's choose a saw wave. And add a filter cutoff with an envelope. So envelope 2, we're going to assign that to this filter cutoff. So we're actually going to make like a respace here. And to do that, we are going to basically add some unison. Can we do it at the level of the synth? I don't think so, at the level of the oscillator, but we can add a second oscillator and detune that, which is going to help. So let's just choose another saw wave or close to and detune it. We're filtering out the high end to create the kind of respace sound, but let's add some unison to make it really nice and rich. Nice. And with the sub bass, that sounds quite nice. And we can open it up for movement if we need to. Okay, that sounds pretty good. So what I'm going to do is just group those bass sounds together. Bass, nice. Group it, color it orange, the natural color of bass groups. And I'm going to add some sidechain compression to there. So you can see I've got this channel up here, a MIDI channel, just with a simpler on it, or a drum rack, playing a very short, sharp rim shot, which we've got programmed in on every beat. And then if we open up the routing, we can see I've got that sent to sends only rather than the master out. So you never hear that tick. And you'll know I use this technique often if you watch this channel. But it's just going to be used to duck elements when we add some sidechain compression. So let's go to the bass group, get a compressor, boom, open this little thingy, that little chap, audio input from side SC for sidechain, and then let's duck it with a really quick attack and just get that release sounding correct. But we don't want to apply that much, so we can just turn the ratio down. Let's call this SC pump. Does that effect? So with the kick, and we'll add this, we're just going to copy and paste this compressor, this sidechain compressor on the piano as well, and make that pump a little bit. Okay, cool. So we're getting that vibe already. Next thing we are going to do is create the drums, the nice housey drums. So we're going to, again, stick to some classic drum sounds here. That would mean 909 clap, a 909 open hat. Keep it simple, and then just get that mix really clean. So let's go to my favorite drums. I'm going to get the clap. There we go. Let's bring that 909 clap. And then the open hat as well. I'm going to take out the low end of the open hat because it's a bit of a dirty sample, cheeky, dirty little sample. Too high. Cool. And now let's just program them in. I will add more interest to the clap as well. Let's program in the hats. You can see I'm programming the MIDI to stop at a particular point as well, just so I don't get untoward tails kind of bleeding out over the next drums if I don't want that. But to make sure that happens, you need to take the release down to 0. And that means that that open hat will kind of finish exactly where I programmed it to finish. Okay, so we're going to add a little bit of reverb to that dance clap. And I've set up a room reverb over here, just with a very short decay time, under about half a second. And if you look in our routing here in drum rack, you can press the R button, which allows you to kind of add a return effect here. So you right click, create return chain, and then choose your plugin, choose your channel, sorry, from the drop down. And then you can close it up again, press S for send, and then it allows you to add some of that reverb to each separate drum. So there's a little bit of reverb added to the clap. And also to the open hat now. Okay, so let's add a pre-transient to that clap and make it sound a little bit more human. I'm going to dig into some other samples here. I'm just going to layer a couple of claps. So this is adding some bass. We can hear there's some bass there. So you don't really want to be layering different sounds that do the same thing. They should complement each other, not just kind of do the same thing. So I want a bit of bass in my clap. So let's bring this one in. It's like a bit of a bass snare. And that's add a pre-transient. Oh, that one will do. So for this one, we're just going to add it before the claps. Not every clap, I think. And it's just going to give it a human feel. So you can hear it plays just before the other claps, which gives it that more human feel. And let's just do that on every other clap. Whoops. Which would be like this. There we go. And with the open hat, we're going to tighten up a bit. Take the sustain down. And just use the decay. So it's a bit tighter. Cool, that's sounding pretty good. Okay, next thing we need to do is add a shuffle to these. And to do that, we're going to program it in with a shaker. I mean, you could use a loop, but I want to program everything in today to show you how you might do it. Let's try this one. And we're just going to program this on every 16th, like so. And we're going to add movement to this, the sidechain compressor, just for the shaker. So let's bring it down in volume. And this is going to be adding the shuffle. In fact, I'm going to have two, and I'm going to pan one left and one right just to add more stereo field. And they are going to be hitting exactly the same notes, like so. So what I can do is now group these together within the drum rack, like so. Let's call these shakers. So we've got one pan left, one pan right. If we solo, then we can hear that. Like so. So let's now process these. First, we want to be taking out the low end because there's a bit of bass in there. Which is better. And now let's add that movement I was talking about. So we can just copy the sidechain compressor. We can then just stick that after the EQ. And now they're going to pump in time with the beat as well. And that's just going to add more interest and movement. And I actually want to add a bit more interest to this sound and soften it slightly. So what I'm going to do is add I will add one of those things, a chorus ensemble. There we go. Just to soften it up a bit. So that's what it was. And now it's softened down nicely. Cool. And now let's try it with all the drums. I'm not sure I like the bass one. You know, don't be afraid to kind of undo the work you've done if you need to. And now let's add a bit of interest and variation when it comes to intros for the clap. So we're going to find one more clap. Let's go to the Creative Toolkit, EDM Tips Creative Toolkit, which you can check out below. Let's use that one. And we're just going to add a little bit of a intro, a drum intro. No, okay, we've got the routing. Sorry, the note that it's hitting is, the MIDI note is the wrong one. Okay, that's better. And I'm just going to vary the velocity slightly, which is going to vary the volume of this. And let's just add it to the end of the sequence. So it's just a little drum intro. tightening up the clap a bit. Cool, now bring in the hat. Cool, that sounds pretty nice. Let's bring in the bass. Okay, next thing we are going to do is add some syncopated kalimbas because, you know, the Kream guys add quite some nice layers, some very nice layers, in fact, that just kind of add and help bolster the main sound. And we're going to get some vocals on the go very soon as well. So let's just add this first. Now, or marimba would do as well. So I'm just going to search for these sounds. I'm going to try and stick to Ableton. So these are all Ableton packs. Let's use this one, the marimba. So again, we're going to stick to those same notes, but we're going to program in a bit of a syncopated rhythm. Now, the easiest way to do that is just to stick to one note at first, the root note of the track, ideally, which would be C. And then create a syncopated rhythm working on those 16th, the 16th, what's it called? Spacing, intervals, that's it. And that's going to help create that nice groove. Oh, thanks to everyone for the kind words last week. I did get better, so I appreciate that. Thank you. And also, if you're enjoying this, give me a hell yeah or an amen, brother. And you can also get that on the new merchandise, which is hopefully showing below this video. And one of these bad boys too. Great for coffee, better for tea. No, equally good for both. We don't discriminate here. Right. So this is our rhythm. And it's, you know, it's keeping that groove going. So let's make this into a bit of a chord. Yeah, okay, that's cool. So I'm just going to duplicate that and take out the first note of the ongoing ones, because then it's, again, just playing with that rhythm. And we'll go down at the last note as well. Now let's duplicate this and make this into a synth stab. And that's just like it's a matter of layering. This is going to add more depth to the tune as well. So for this, I'm going to bring in, let's work within the wavetable again. I do like the wavetable. Let's bring that there. And we're going to make a short, sharp pluck. Again, based on a saw wave, with the envelope 2 assigned to the filter. And then let's have a listen. But instead of the same chord, I'm just going to do an octave, the C and the C, so both the root note. Now that sounds a bit boring at the moment, but what we're going to do to add interest to this is put a reverb on the channel itself to really push this back in the mix. But let's add some unison and make it a bit wider first. Detune a second oscillator. No, actually we'll stick to one oscillator and just add the unison. So now it sounds wide, sounds cool. Let's take out the low end. Put our reverb on. As I said, we're going to push it right back in the mix. So it's now got a completely different feel to how it was, which was this. And now let's layer that with our marimba. So this is with the synth off and with it on. And now let's add that sidechain compression to each of those elements. So it's all going to be pumping along with the track. And let's have a listen. Let's add some room reverb to the marimba. Okay, I don't know if this sounds anything like Kream at the moment, but I kind of like how it's sounding to me. I think what we need to do is get some of their really cool synths on there, because they've got these lovely synth melodies. So let's just open this up a bit. We'll do a little bit of arrangement now, I think. And we'll filter in that piano, because it's going to give it a nice vibe. So let's put a filter on there. EQs and filters, boom. And let's add a little bit of resonance. Call it LP for low pass. Take the filter frequency down, and let's have a listen to what we're going to do. Let's just filter that up. Let's make sure that what we're going to do actually, we'll put the filter before the sidechain compression. We're going to add a little bit of EQ to take out the low end, because we don't want it clashing with the bass too much. And we're going to add a compressor, because when we've got a resonant peak on the filter, that's going to be kind of making it spike in volume a bit. So let's just add a little bit of compression. You can see it's now. It's just keeping things in check, and then we've got our sidechain compression bouncing it. Those are cool tips today. Okay, so let's listen to it. I'm going to change some of these notes as well using the scale. Scale C minor, keep things easy. So you can hear by keeping the chords kind of in the same place whilst the bass changes, it creates this really nice atmosphere. Let's leave those there. And I'm going to add a little bit of delay to this marimba, because I just want it to have a little bit more atmosphere to it. So I'm going to choose an echo. 100% wet, because it's an auxiliary channel, because we don't want the dry signal to be doubled up, which is why we have auxiliary spatial effects set to 100% wet. And let's add a little bit of ping pong and just take the feedback down, and let's just add a little bit to the marimba. Note. And it's just about getting the right delay timing for what you want. That's cool. We're just going to use a little bit though, just to create a little bit more interest in the stereo field. Okay, cool. I'm really liking that at the moment. So what we're going to do now is add some of those synths that I was talking about, the melodic synth. So let's call this melody. And let's color it cyan. See, baby blue is the natural color of acoustic instruments, whereas cyan is the natural color of synths in nature. If you go out into nature and you find a synth just roaming the wilderness of the, audio jungle or savanna, you'll find that they're actually, in the right light, they are actually cyan in color. And that's why we use cyan to color our synths that color, And that's fact. That is fact. So what we're going to do is use another wavetable on there. And we're going to make an intro. We'll base it on a saw wave again, actually. And let's just really quickly make a nice rich sound. I'm going to show you a trick, actually, that I haven't shown before. We're not just going to detune a unison. We're going to choose oscillator 1. We're going to tune it up. And we're going to choose oscillator 2 and tune it down. And that means there isn't actually any part of that that's hitting the notes that we want to be implying, which, is quite an interesting concept, I think. It's like the sum of those two together kind of hints at the note it should be making. That's pretty much it already. That's the sound I was after. I'm just going to add some of the reverb from the piano on the auxiliary channel, just because it's easier. Let's turn it down an octave. That's pretty much the sound I want. Let's add some unison. Even better. Take out the low end. And I think that's pretty much it. I might add some filter again, filter frequency with the envelope too, just to add some more movement. Now let's play and just kind of jam along with this. Not quite the right sound. I want it to sound bigger, so we'll add some amplitude release. Kind of sounds cool. So let's play along with that and work out how we're going to fit it in arrangement-wise so we're not overusing it. We could actually have a drop at some other point in the track where we switch the bass line slightly, because I think that's what they do in their kind of water track. But what we're going to do now is get a vocal. So I'm just going to color that purple, because that's the color of the inside of the throat. And that's why purple. So let's open Splice, and we are although if your throat is that color, you should probably see a doctor as soon as possible. And if you can see the inside of your throat, you should definitely see a doctor immediately. Stop watching this now. Go to the doctor. Right, vocal. It's for your own good. Right, we are going to choose the key of the track, which we already know is in C minor. So we choose C minor. And let's just have a listen. That's cool. Oh, that's really nice. Yeah, we'll choose this one. So I'm going to drag this in, and we just need to make sure it's synced to the track. So at 155, great. So you can actually see with the Splice samples, it will tell you what tempo it is. It says right here, 155. So this is already warped to 155, great. We want to choose Complex Pro, because that's the smoothest warp algorithm for vocals. And I think we're probably going to have to get this in time because it's it's not starting at the beginning of the bar. You can see here there's this little space. So all I'm going to do, and it sounds like she's in absolute agreement with this, we're going to pull the beginning of the sample over like this. That's nice. There's a lot of variation in the volume here though. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of even it out a bit with the gain. So they're all a similar volume. And then blend them together so it's not, yeah, so it's a bit smoother. And let's just listen to this. And there's already loads of delay and reverb on this vocal, so I'm not sure we actually need to add. I'm going to move this slightly though, because I think it should come in on the beat. Yeah. Now what we're going to do is add a vocal texture, and this is really important to add more interest, and again it's all about the nuance in this kind of music. So let's call that Vox texture. And then we're going to create a syncopated piano riff that's a bit more interesting, and we'll do a tiny bit of arrangement as well. So for the vocal texture, let's choose a different vocal. I'm going to use Splice again. Same key. I'll just... Ooh, oh yeah. So let's just take a little bit of this vocal to use as a texture. Oh yeah. Again, I have to make sure it's Complex Pro. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is all we're going to take. And we're going to paste it and just duplicate it. And this is our vocal texture. But what we want to do is push this right back in the mix. So we're going to add another reverb directly onto this. So we take away all the transient energy, like so. And we're going to add even more movement by copying and pasting the sidechain compressor to add the pumping effect. Take out the low end. So if it's just the beats, let's turn everything else off. So we could start the track like this, for instance. Probably just a shaker. So the track could start like this. That's a nice way to start the track, I like that. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of quickly rough this out. But that's where the filtering up would start, so you could bring that in to start there. That clap wouldn't happen, you know, every beat. That's silly. It should just happen every now and again. Okay, let's just make a little drop quickly. Again, we're just going to start with the kick and the... we can program in a different bass line if we wanted to for the drop, because that's something else they do as well. But let's just use this one for the time being. And this is where we can bring in the at our synth for the first time. Okay, let's have a listen. First, we are going to quantize that. Let's change the bass line for that drop though, just for fun. As long as we're doing it within the key of C minor, we can come up with a cool sounding bass line that's just going to change for this one part of the track. And we're making sure that the rhythm of the melody and the rhythm of the bass line kind of complements each other as well. So listen to how the melody interplays with this bass line. I'm going to open this up a bit. Oh, that's cool. I really like that. Let's bring in the vocal texture. So we've got this, and then our drop can come in. We'd have a build up, you know, drums. Now let's and then we can bring in the claps there. Yeah, this doesn't sound nice. I know it's like that water track they did, but it's a great track, and that's the kind of vibe I was going for. Okay. I think the claps are a bit loud. And now that's cool. So now we can go back to the normal bass line, but we're gonna make this piano into like a cool syncopated riff. That's the last thing we're gonna do. And it's gonna be easier to do that with the drums going at the same time. And we'll keep the marimba and the synth stab as well, because that's gonna allow us to kind of make sure that our syncopated piano rhythm is gonna work with all that and not be kind of fighting against it. So we'll stick to these chords, but what I'm gonna do to make it easier, I'll just start from scratch and draw in a new rhythm just on one note, because it makes it easier. So it's going to be very similar to the other syncopated element. pretty much that. But we'll add in the lower notes as well because they sound cool. So that's C, A flat, and F. And with the bass line, let's bring in the bass that works with those chords. That's nice. Yes, instant nice on the old piano. The old Joanna. And now let's take off the filter. No, not quite. Yes. We could epic it up if you wanted to. Just bring in these other notes beforehand. Yes, let's bring the vocals in over the top of that. Just for the vibe. Yeah, I'm loving that. Drums, please. Let's add a couple of little, like snare skips in there. Now this isn't, taken from the track. I'm just going to add a couple of extra drums. I'm going to add a tom drum to bring some low end energy. Here we go. I'm just going to bring in that low end energy, but I might need to tune this to the track. Now it sounds fine, kind of like that. It might already be tuned. I'm just going to copy that. And that just adds some low end groove to the track. Now let's add a little snare skip. I don't know if this is the right sound, but I'm going to make it work. I'm going to make it work because that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make this short and sharp. So take off the release. It's kind of roughly hitting the frequencies I want, which is the most important thing. And then we're just working with the decay. So let's add some scarce snare skips. Quite quiet, just to add to the... Just working on the 16th. Actually, there's too much high end in this because I think there's a clap layered on it. Probably choose a different sound, actually. Yeah, that's just a snare. Turn off the filter now. Add a little bit of attack. I don't want this to be quite so... It's just a little bit softer. If we do that. We don't want to overuse this. It just works really well with those other kind of toms, those syncopated beats. And that's it, guys. I just wanted to add that little bit. Let's have a listen to it. Let's add some mastering actually. Compressor, glue compressor, boom. Go back to the other bit here. We're going to go back to the pre-drop here. Bring it in. This is nice. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this, guys. Some insights into how to create house music in the style of Kream. As usual, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget you can download this project file, all the samples and presets completely free. And yeah, until next time, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, cheers, and happy producing.